Across the galaxy, people spoke with fear about the war dragon. It was not a small creature or even something that could be compared to normal beasts. It was a giant with wings that stretched like sails of a starship, scales that shone like molten metal, and a roar that could be heard across valleys. Entire fleets had fallen before its fire. Alien empires that thought themselves powerful had been humbled when the war dragon swept through their skies. No weapon seemed strong enough to bring it down, no cage could ever hold it. It was not just a creature, it was a force of nature. The legends told that the war dragon appeared without warning. One moment the skies were calm and the next flames rained down. Its enemies never knew where it came from and they never understood why it attacked. Some said it was created by ancient builders, a living weapon designed to destroy whole worlds. Others believed it was a guardian that had been corrupted and turned into a tool of destruction. Whatever the truth, no one doubted its power. Then one day it vanished. The galaxy was confused. For years, armies kept watch, waiting for the familiar roar, but the skies stayed silent. No fire burned in the night. No wings cast shadows over cities. The war dragon was gone, and no one knew why. The alien leaders felt both relief and fear. Relief that their fleets were safe, but fear that the beast might return even stronger. They sent explorers across the stars to find it, but every search ended with nothing. The war dragon became a ghost story, a tale to frighten children, though deep down adults still believed. They knew that silence did not mean safety, only waiting. Far away on a quiet planet called Earth, a man named Daniel lived a simple life. He was no soldier, no scientist, and no ruler. He was a farmer. He worked the land his father had left him, planting crops, raising animals, and enjoying the peace of the countryside. His farm stood at the edge of a forest where birds sang in the morning and crickets played their music at night. To him, the galaxy was something distant, something he read about in old books or saw on rare broadcasts. Daniel preferred the soil beneath his hands to the stars above his head. He rose with the sun, worked until the sky grew dark, and went to bed with the sound of the wind in the trees. His life was quiet, and that was how he liked it. But quiet lives can change in a moment. It was a late evening when Daniel first noticed something strange. The day had been warm, but now the air carried a sharpness as if a storm were coming. The sky glowed faintly with a red hue, though no storm clouds were present. He was checking on his animals when he saw that the ground near the pasture looked scorched, blackened as if fire had touched it. The marks were fresh. He frowned, for there had been no lightning, no sign of burning. His animals were restless that night. The dogs barked at the forest, their ears pulled back, their tails low. The horses stomped and refused to settle. Even the cattle moved uneasily, their eyes wide as if they sensed a predator. Daniel tried to calm them, but he could not shake his own unease. He had lived on the farm his whole life, and he knew its sounds, its patterns, its rhythm. Tonight felt different. When the moon rose high, Daniel took a lantern and walked toward the forest. He followed the burned marks across the soil, each one leading deeper into the trees. The night was quiet, almost too quiet, as though the world itself was holding its breath. His heart beat faster, but his curiosity pushed him forward. At last he reached a small clearing. There, lying on the ground, was something that took his breath away. A massive shape rested among the trees, its scales glimmering faintly under the silver moonlight. Smoke rose from its nostrils with every slow breath, wings folded tight against its body, scarred and torn. The ground around it was blackened, the trees bent away from its heat. Daniel's lantern shook in his hand. He did not need anyone to tell him what he was looking at. The stories of the war dragon had reached even Earth, carried by travelers and whispered in fearful tones. And now the beast that had destroyed fleets and frightened empires was here, lying only a few steps away from him. He froze, unsure if he should run or stay. Yet, as he looked closer, he saw not a monster ready to strike, but a creature in pain. Its chest rose and fell slowly, its eyes half closed, its great body weak. It was not here to destroy. It was here because it had nowhere else to go. Daniel felt a strange pull inside him. He was only a farmer, but in that moment he understood that his life had changed forever. The war dragon, the terror of the galaxy, had mysteriously vanished only to be found curled up at his feet. And it had chosen Earth, and him as its resting place. Daniel stood frozen in the clearing, his lantern trembling in his hand. The war dragon's breath came in deep, slow waves, each exhale sending a soft puff of smoke into the night air. It was massive, its body stretching longer than his barn, its wings folded like giant sails pressed close to its sides. The silver moonlight caught on its scales, making them shimmer with colors of red and bronze. He had heard stories of the war dragon since he was a boy, stories told by travelers who came through the small towns. They said it could melt steel ships in seconds and its wings cast shadows big enough to cover whole armies. Daniel had never thought those stories were real. Yet here it was, curled up only a few steps away, not as a raging beast but as something weak and wounded. The farmer's first thought was to run back home. But his second thought kept him standing there. The way the creature lay on the ground did not match the fearsome tales. Its breathing was heavy, almost like a sigh. Its eyes, half open, glowed faintly but without anger. It looked less like a monster and more like a tired traveler who had walked too far. Daniel lowered his lantern and whispered, though he knew the creature might not understand. "You're hurt, aren't you?" The dragon's eye slowly shifted toward him. Daniel's chest tightened. He expected a blast of fire or at least a warning growl. Instead, the eye closed again as if the beast had accepted his presence. Unsure of what else to do, Daniel turned and hurried back to his farm. His animals were still uneasy, but he managed to calm the dogs enough to let him pass. He carried 2 buckets of water and a sack of grain. He was not sure if a dragon would even eat grain, but it was the only food he had to offer at that moment. Back in the clearing, Daniel placed the buckets a safe distance from the creature. "I don't know if this will help," he said softly, "but it's what I have." The war dragon moved slowly, lifting its great head. It lowered its snout to the bucket of water and drank, steam rising where its hot breath touched the cool liquid. The sound of it drinking was deep, like rocks shifting underground. Daniel held his breath, watching closely. When the dragon finished, it let out a low rumble that shook the ground. For a moment, Daniel thought it was angry, but then he realized it sounded almost like a sigh of relief. The farmer stepped back, unsure what to do next. The dragon folded itself tighter, curling around as if preparing to sleep. Its massive body looked smaller when it rested like that, though it still dwarfed everything in the clearing. Daniel stayed for a while, watching before finally returning to his farmhouse. But sleep did not come easily that night. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the glowing eye of the dragon watching him. The next day, Daniel returned at sunrise. The dragon was still there, though it had shifted slightly, leaving deeper burns in the soil. Its body seemed to heal slowly, though scars still showed across its wings. Daniel brought more water and fresh food, unsure if it would accept. This time the dragon lifted its head more quickly. It drank again, and when it was done, it lowered its head to the ground, resting it near Daniel's feet. The farmer froze. The dragon's eye blinked once, slowly, as if it was testing his reaction. Daniel felt something stir in his chest. He realized it was not fear, but something else. The galaxy's most feared weapon, the beast of fire and wings, was trusting him. Days passed in this strange routine. Daniel worked his farm as usual, but always returned to the clearing with water and food. The dragon never attacked, never tried to harm him. Instead, it grew calmer each day. Its breathing became steady. Its wings slowly regained their strength, and its scales shone brighter in the sunlight. Daniel began to notice little things. The dragon tilted its head when he spoke, as if listening. It moved its great body to shield him from the wind one evening when the air grew cold. Once, when a wild predator crept too close, the dragon released a soft growl, sending the animal fleeing back into the forest. It was as if the creature had decided that Daniel was not only a helper, but also a companion worth protecting. At night, Daniel sometimes sat near the dragon, staring up at the stars. He wondered how far it had traveled, what battles it had fought, and why it had come to Earth. He had no answers, but he knew one thing with certainty. The war dragon was no longer just a legend from faraway worlds. It was real, and it had chosen to rest at his side. Meanwhile, beyond Earth's skies, others had begun to notice. Strange energy readings spread from the dragon's resting place, signals that reached the ears of alien watchers. Fleets whispered among themselves. Could it be true? Could the war dragon still live? And if so, why had it chosen Earth? A small planet thought too simple and too weak to matter. Daniel did not know of the eyes watching from above. He only knew that each day he grew less afraid of the dragon. The more time he spent with it, the stronger their bond became. The galaxy's most ferocious creature had mysteriously vanished. and now it was healing in peace at the feet of a human farmer. And soon, the rest of the galaxy would learn where it had gone. The morning sun spilled across the farm as Daniel walked back into the forest. He carried 2 buckets of water balanced on a wooden pole across his shoulders. His steps were steady, though his heart still beat faster than usual. It had been a week since he first found the war dragon curled up in the clearing, and every day since then he had returned. He was no longer filled with fear when he approached. The dragon no longer felt like a stranger. Its great eyes seemed to recognize him now, following his movements with patience. When Daniel placed the buckets down, the dragon stretched its neck and drank. Steam rose as its hot breath touched the water, but this time Daniel did not step back. He stood near the creature, close enough to feel the warmth radiating from its scales. "Seems like you're getting stronger," Daniel said quietly. His voice was steady, though he still spoke in a gentle tone. He was not sure why he spoke at all, but it felt natural. The dragon blinked slowly, almost as though it understood. Daniel noticed the way the dragon's wounds had begun to heal. The long gashes along its wings no longer looked raw. The burn marks on its chest had faded into pale scars. Its breathing, once heavy and uneven, now came with steady rhythm. Though still weak, the dragon was recovering, and Daniel knew his help had played a part in it. One afternoon, while Daniel worked near the clearing, he felt a shadow fall over him. He looked up and saw the dragon stretching its wings. For a moment he thought it would take off into the sky, but instead it only flapped once, sending a rush of air that bent the grass flat. Dust swirled around them. Daniel shielded his eyes, then laughed softly. It was not a laugh of mockery, but of amazement. "You're testing them, aren't you?" he said. "You want to fly again?" The dragon lowered its head until its eyes were level with his. Daniel's reflection shone on the surface of those glowing eyes. He felt a strange weight settle in his chest, not of fear, but of connection. He had never felt such a thing with any animal, not even with his loyal dogs. This was different. This was something larger than words. That night, Daniel sat by the dragon's side, leaning against a fallen log. The forest was quiet except for the soft sounds of the dragon's breathing. He gazed at the stars above. The same stars that the dragon must have flown across, the same stars where the stories of its destruction were whispered in fear. He wondered what it had seen, what battles it had fought, and what had finally brought it here to Earth to him. The dragon shifted slightly, its massive body curling closer around him. Daniel felt the ground tremble as it moved. He realized with a start that the dragon was not just resting nearby. It was guarding him. He could feel the heat of its scales like the warmth of a fire on a cold night. For the first time in his life, Daniel felt something stir inside him. He had always been a simple man, content with his fields and animals. But now, sitting in the shadow of the most feared creature in the galaxy, he felt important. Not because he had power, but because the dragon had chosen him. Over the next few days, the bond between them grew stronger. Daniel discovered that the dragon responded to his voice. When he spoke gently, it calmed. When he called out, it lifted its head. Once, when Daniel stumbled while carrying heavy water buckets, the dragon shifted closer, as if ready to catch him with its wing. On another day, a wild boar charged out of the forest, snorting angrily. Daniel barely had time to react before the dragon let out a low growl. The sound was not loud, but it carried such force that the boar froze, then turned and fled back into the trees. Daniel stood still, amazed. The dragon had protected him without hesitation. "You're not just healing," Daniel whispered that evening as he placed a hand against one of its scales. The surface was warm, smooth, and surprisingly steady beneath his palm. "You're watching over me." The dragon closed its eyes as though agreeing, but far above Earth, alien ships picked up the signals of unusual energy coming from the planet. Strange pulses spread from the dragon's body as it healed, signals that reached scanners across the stars. To those who watched, the truth became clear. The war dragon had not died. It had not vanished forever. It was alive, and it had found a new companion, on Earth. Across distant worlds, whispers grew louder. Some feared what this meant. Others plotted to find the creature and claim it for themselves. A few laughed, saying humans could never control such a beast. But all agreed on one thing: the war dragon's return would change the balance of power. Daniel knew none of this. He only knew that each day he grew closer to the dragon, and each day the dragon chose to stay by his side. The bond between man and beast was not forced by chains or commands. It was built on trust, a trust that even the galaxy's strongest empires had never been able to earn. The galaxy's most feared creature had found peace beside a human farmer. And in that peace, a new story was beginning to take shape, one that no empire had expected. High above Earth, the silence of space broke as small alien scouts passed in orbit. Their sensors picked up strange energy rising from the planet's surface. The readings were strong, unlike anything expected from such a simple world. At first, the scouts believed it was a machine or hidden weapon, but when the data grew clearer, the truth stunned them. The war dragon was alive. News spread across the stars with frightening speed. Every empire, every fleet, every council that once feared the beast now faced the truth. The creature had not been destroyed. It had not gone into eternal sleep. It had only vanished to heal, and somehow it had chosen Earth as its refuge. In the great halls of alien rulers, voices clashed. Some demanded the war dragon be captured at once before it regained its full strength. Others urged caution, fearing that an attempt to capture it might wake its fury again. A few mocked the idea that a human world could hold such a power, calling Earth nothing more than a quiet backwater planet. But one fact could not be ignored. The war dragon's energy was pulsing once more, and every empire knew what it meant. If the creature chose to fight again, entire fleets could burn. On Earth, Daniel remained unaware of these debates among the stars. He went about his daily work, though life was no longer as simple as it once had been. Each morning, he carried food and water into the forest. Each evening, he sat by the dragon's side, speaking to it as though it were a friend. The dragon was stronger now. It could lift its wings fully, sending waves of air through the clearing. Its scales shone brighter under the sunlight, and its roar carried far into the hills. Yet it never harmed Daniel or his farm. The creature that had once struck fear into galaxies now rested calmly at the feet of a farmer. One night, as Daniel sat with the dragon, he noticed strange lights moving across the sky. They were not stars. They moved in straight lines, blinking with sharp precision. He frowned, unsure what they were, but the dragon lifted its head and rumbled softly. Daniel felt a chill run down his spine. The beast understood what those lights meant. They were not natural. They were watchers. A few days later, the truth arrived in the form of shadows in the sky. Sleek alien ships cut through the clouds, descending quietly but with purpose. They landed near the edges of Daniel's farm, their metallic hulls shining under the sun. For the first time, Earth soil felt the weight of foreign boots. Daniel was tending to his animals when he heard the hum of engines. He turned and saw the strange ships resting like birds of metal. Tall figures stepped out, their armor glowing faintly with colors unknown to Earth. Their faces were sharp, their eyes cold, and their movements precise. These were not visitors. They were hunters. The dragon sensed them before Daniel could act. A deep growl rolled through the forest, shaking the trees. The ground trembled as the beast unfolded its wings. Daniel rushed to the clearing, his heart pounding. He found the dragon already on its feet, towering, its gaze fixed on the alien intruders. The aliens did not raise weapons at first. Instead, one of them stepped forward and spoke in a voice that echoed with mechanical rhythm. "Human, you stand beside a danger greater than you can understand. Hand the creature to us. It does not belong to you. It belongs to the stars." Daniel stood his ground. His hands shook, but he did not move aside. "It's hurt. It came here to rest. It's not yours." The alien's eyes narrowed. "Do you believe you can protect it? You are nothing more than a farmer. The war dragon answers to no one, not even you." Behind him, the dragon lowered its head, the tip of its snout nearly brushing Daniel's shoulder. Its eyes glowed brighter and its wings stretched wide. The sight made the aliens shift uneasily. For the first time, they hesitated. Daniel looked up at the dragon, then back at the strangers. "It stays here." "With me," the aliens whispered among themselves, their voices sharp and quick. They had not expected resistance from a human, nor had they expected the dragon to remain still beside him instead of attacking. The bond was confusing, even frightening. After a long pause, the leader spoke again. "This is not finished. Others will come. Stronger than us. Be warned, human. When they arrive, neither you nor your world will be able to stop them." With that, the aliens stepped back into their ship. The engines roared and the vessel lifted into the sky, leaving only scorch marks in the soil. The forest grew silent again, but the warning hung heavy in the air. Daniel exhaled slowly, his hands still trembling. He turned to the dragon, who lowered its head until it rested near his feet. The message was clear. The galaxy had noticed. The piece of his farm was gone. Yet as he placed a hand against the dragon's warm scales, Daniel felt no fear. The galaxy's most ferocious creature had chosen him. Not the aliens, not their fleets. And if the stars sent more ships, they would not just face the war dragon. They would face the bond between man and beast, a bond the galaxy had never seen before. The days after the alien ship left were heavy with silence. Daniel worked his farm as usual, but his thoughts were never far from the warning they had given him. He could not forget the cold voice that told him others would come, stronger than the first. The peaceful rhythm of his life was gone. Every sound in the distance, every unusual light in the sky made him wonder if another ship was already on its way. The war dragon sensed it too. It no longer slept as deeply as before. Its ears twitched at the faintest sound, and its eyes glowed faintly through the night. Sometimes it stood in the clearing for hours, wings half open, watching the skies as though expecting an attack at any moment. Daniel had grown used to the dragon's presence, but now he saw it not as a wounded traveler but as a guardian. One evening, while Daniel carried buckets of water to the clearing, the ground shook under his feet. He looked up and saw the dragon rising to its full height, wings stretching wide. A low rumble rolled from its throat. Daniel turned his eyes skyward and saw them, 3 ships larger than the first dropping down from the clouds. Their hulls glowed with strange lights and their engines roared like storms. Daniel's chest tightened. The aliens had returned, and this time they brought more force. The ships landed in a wide circle near the forest, crushing trees beneath their weight. Doors opened and lines of armored figures stepped out. They carried staffs that glimmered with sharp energy, weapons designed to strike fear. The leader stepped forward, his armor brighter than the rest. His voice rang across the clearing. "Human, step aside. The creature belongs to us. You have no claim over it. Hand it over and your world will remain unharmed." Daniel's grip tightened on his buckets, though he set them down slowly. His heart pounded, but he forced his voice to remain steady. "It doesn't belong to you. It came here on its own. It stays here," the aliens murmured with disbelief. The leader tilted his head, studying Daniel. "You are a farmer. You grow food. You tend animals. You have no idea of the danger this beast carries. Entire fleets have fallen to its fire, and yet you claim it as if it were your pet?" Daniel shook his head. "It's not a pet. It's a friend. I don't care what you think it has done in the past. I've seen what it is now. It chooses to stay. That's enough for me." The war dragon stepped forward, its massive body casting a shadow over Daniel. Its wings spread slowly, not in attack but in warning. The aliens raised their staffs, but none fired. They were confused. Why did the creature obey a simple human? Why did it remain calm when it could destroy them in an instant? The leader tried again, his voice sharper now. "You cannot hope to stand against us. We could burn this land to ash. We could take what we want and you would be powerless to stop us." Daniel felt fear pressing against his chest, but he did not step aside. He placed a hand on the dragon's warm scales and spoke with quiet strength. "If you want it, you'll have to go through me." The aliens hesitated. This was not how humans were supposed to act. In their records, humans were weak, unimportant, a young species with no place in galactic affairs. Yet here was one who stood with a beast that had frightened empires, and the beast seemed to listen to him. The standoff stretched into silence. The war dragon's eyes glowed brighter, smoke rising from its nostrils. The air grew heavy with heat. The aliens shifted uneasily, their weapons still raised but their confidence shaken. At last the leader lowered his staff. "You do not understand the path you choose, human. By standing with this creature, you place yourself against more than us. You place yourself against the order of the galaxy. You will regret this defiance." Without another word, the aliens retreated to their ships. Engines roared, fire scorched the soil, and the vessels lifted into the sky. Soon the clouds closed around them, leaving silence once more. Daniel exhaled, his knees weak. He leaned against the dragon, who lowered its head beside him. The bond between them had been tested, and both had stood firm. The aliens had not taken the dragon. They had not taken his land, but Daniel knew it was not over. More would come. The galaxy would not simply forget the war dragon. They would return with greater strength, greater numbers, and greater determination. Yet as he looked into the dragon's glowing eyes, Daniel felt no regret. The creature had chosen him and he had chosen it. Whatever challenges came, they would face them together. The galaxy might see only a farmer and a beast. But Daniel knew the truth. Together they were something greater. Together they were a force that even the stars would learn to respect. The forest was quiet in the early morning, but Daniel sensed the tension in the air. The war dragon had been restless through the night, its great body shifting constantly as if it could feel something coming. Daniel stood near the clearing, holding a bucket of water and watching the horizon. He knew the galaxy had not forgotten them. The aliens had retreated, but they would not give up. By mid-morning, their return became clear. Ships appeared in the sky, larger and more numerous than before. They moved in perfect formation, engines humming like distant storms. Daniel's chest tightened, but he did not run. He had faced them once and stood firm. He would do so again. When the ships landed, lines of alien figures emerged. Their armor gleamed with harsh light, and their weapons glowed with energy. At the front, a taller alien stepped forward. It was different from the others, wearing a cloak that marked it as a leader. Its eyes were sharp and cold, scanning the clearing with suspicion. "Human," the leader said, voice carrying across the trees. "You continue to defy us. You claim the dragon as your companion. You do not understand the choice you make." Daniel held his ground, his hand resting on the dragon's warm scales. "I understand it perfectly. It trusts me, and I trust it." "That is enough." The alien leader stepped closer, raising one hand. A small device emitted a bright pulse of light. "We will test your loyalty," it said. "If the dragon follows your commands, we may consider it a human ally. If not, your planet will pay the price." Daniel's eyes widened. A test? They wanted to see if he could control the dragon. He glanced at the creature beside him. Its eyes met his, glowing softly. It did not move aggressively, but it waited. It was as if it knew he would guide it. "Stay," Daniel whispered. The dragon lowered its massive head and remained still. Daniel stepped forward slightly. "Do not attack." The dragon exhaled slowly, smoke curling gently from its nostrils, and continued to obey. The alien leader frowned, surprised. "It listens," the alien said. "It obeys you, human. How is this possible? No species has ever earned its trust." Daniel felt a surge of determination. "It is not about commands," he said quietly. "It is about trust. That is something you will never understand." The aliens exchanged nervous looks. Their test had failed, and they could not comprehend it. A creature that had destroyed fleets, that had terrified entire galaxies, had chosen a human not out of fear, not out of force, but out of respect and friendship. One of the aliens attempted to reach toward the dragon, hoping to provoke a reaction. The war dragon's eyes glowed brighter, and a low rumble rolled from its chest. Dust rose from the ground as it flexed its wings, not to attack but as a warning. Daniel stepped closer, placing a hand on its neck. The dragon lowered its head again, calm in his presence. "See," Daniel said to the aliens, "it trusts me. That is the difference." The alien leader paused, then stepped back. "This is not over," it said. "Others will come. We will return with forces beyond your imagining. Remember this, human. The creature obeys you now, but time will change that. Do not think your bond is unbreakable." Daniel did not flinch. "Try all you want. It will still be here, and I will still stand with it." With a final glance at the war dragon, the aliens retreated to their ships. Engines roared and lifted them into the sky, leaving the clearing quiet once more. The dragon lowered its wings fully and exhaled slowly. Daniel rested his hand on its scales, feeling the warmth and steady strength beneath. "You were amazing," he said softly. "You didn't have to trust me, but you did. I promise I will never let anyone hurt you." The dragon nudged him gently with its massive head, a gesture that Daniel understood as approval. He realized that their bond was no longer just a matter of survival. It had become something deeper, something neither of them had expected. Through the day, Daniel worked beside the dragon. He repaired the barn, carried water, and tended to the animals, all under the watchful gaze of his companion. The forest felt safer with the dragon near, and Daniel felt stronger knowing it was there. Far above Earth, the signals from the war dragon continued to pulse across the galaxy. Aliens watched and whispered. Some feared the strength of this bond. Others plotted how they might use it. But one thing was clear to all. The creature that had been the galaxy's terror now belonged to a human. And that bond, based on trust and respect, was something no force could break easily. As night fell, Daniel and the dragon sat together in the clearing. Stars reflected in the dragon's glowing eyes, and Daniel felt a quiet pride. They had faced the aliens and stood firm. They had passed a test not of strength but of loyalty and heart. The galaxy might challenge them again, but Daniel knew one thing for certain. Whatever came, they would face it together. The war dragon was more than a weapon, and Daniel was more than a farmer. Together, they had become something the stars had never seen before. The forest was calm in the early morning, though the air still carried the weight of the galaxy's attention. Daniel stood near the clearing, watching the war dragon stretch its wings in the soft light. The beast had grown stronger with each day, its scales shimmering under the sun and its eyes glowing with quiet power. But even with all that strength, it remained beside him, calm and loyal. News had begun to travel across the stars. Alien scouts who had witnessed the dragon's obedience to a human had returned to their worlds with stories that amazed and alarmed. The galaxy began to whisper about the war dragon that no empire could claim, a creature that chose a human as its companion. Daniel heard none of these stories. He was unaware that he had become part of a legend, a symbol of a bond the galaxy had never seen before. All he knew was that each day the dragon stayed by his side, and that was enough. The aliens who had once threatened him remained cautious. They monitored from a distance, waiting for an opportunity to capture the dragon, or prove that a human could not control it. But every day they watched, they saw the same truth. The dragon would not leave Daniel. It obeyed him not because it was forced, but because it trusted him. One afternoon, Daniel sat beside the dragon, running his hand along its warm scales. "You've changed everything," he said softly. "Not just for me, but for the whole galaxy. They'll never see humans the same way again." The dragon rumbled softly in response, nudging his shoulder gently. Daniel smiled. The creature had become more than a guardian. It had become a friend, a companion, and a protector. Together they had survived the tests of fear, power, and doubt. Word of their bond reached the stars, and fleets of alien ships paused their attacks. Some feared the dragon too much to act. Others wondered if humans had grown stronger than they had imagined. The legends of destruction became stories of respect. The galaxy slowly realized that the war dragon, a creature feared by all, had chosen not domination but companionship. One evening, Daniel and the dragon looked toward the horizon. A faint light appeared in the sky, and Daniel tensed, expecting another alien threat. But it was different. The ships moved slowly, cautiously, and they did not carry weapons. Instead, they came to observe, to understand, and to witness the bond that had changed the balance of power. Daniel did not fear them. He knew the dragon would not leave him, and he had no intention of stepping aside. The moment was quiet, filled with unspoken trust. The alien saw it too. The human and the dragon side by side, neither commanding nor being commanded, yet united in strength and loyalty. The galaxy began to spread tales of this new legend. Children on distant planets learned about the war dragon that chose a human, about the farmer who stood firm against alien fleets, and about the trust that could tame even the most ferocious creature. Empires no longer spoke only of conquest. They spoke of respect for the bond that could unite two very different beings. Daniel returned to his simple life, tending his farm, feeding his animals, and caring for the dragon. Life had changed, but it had not lost its rhythm. The dragon became part of the land, protecting the forest, watching over the fields, and resting beside him at night. Together they shared quiet moments under the stars, moments filled with understanding that went beyond words. The aliens did not give up entirely. They watched and learned, realizing that power alone could not conquer loyalty or trust. They would return, perhaps, but they would do so, knowing that this human and this dragon were something the galaxy could not easily break. Daniel felt a quiet pride as he looked at the creature that had once been a legend of fear. Now it was a legend of hope. The dragon's roar no longer carried only destruction. It carried a message to the stars, that even the most powerful being could choose friendship over fear, trust over control. That night, Daniel sat in the clearing, leaning against the dragon's side. Its breath came in steady waves, warm and comforting. He looked up at the stars and felt the connection that bound them together. The galaxy might see humans as weak. The aliens might see them as unimportant, but he knew the truth. Humans could inspire loyalty, courage, and friendship in ways that no empire or weapon could match. And the war dragon had chosen to show that truth to the galaxy. The stars above reflected in the dragon's glowing eyes, and Daniel whispered, "We did it. Together." The dragon nudged him gently, and in that moment Daniel knew that this bond would last for a lifetime. The galaxy would always remember the day when a human and a beast became a force that no power could command. A new legend born from trust, loyalty, and courage. Earth remained quiet, its fields bathed in moonlight, its forest calm. But in the hearts of distant worlds, the story had begun to spread. The galaxy would speak of Daniel and the war dragon for generations. A tale of fear transformed into friendship, and destruction transformed into hope. Together, human and dragon watched the stars, ready for whatever the future might bring. And the galaxy learned something it had never known before. Strength was not only in fire and wings, but in the heart of a human.